All right, there we go. I guess it would. I suppose it would help if I actually turned the microphone on. Welcome everyone to the second chapter read through and campaign. Well, I guess I've done other. Anyway, welcome, guys, welcome. Super excited to have you all here. I'm going to try and kind of get situated. Get the mic kind of turn the way it was supposed to be in the first place because I keep bumping into it. All right, I think we're set. I think we're ready to go. The chat is open, and so if you guys have any questions, please make sure to go over there and check it out. I'm gonna do a update for you on kind of where everything is at with the campaign, and then we will dive into reading the chapter and the character reveal for the villain, which I am so excited to talk to you guys about today. So first and foremost, we are sitting at $3,500 fund raised, crowdsourced, whatever you want to call it, for the book. So I am sitting just shy of about $1,500 left in order to hit my goal for my publishing campaign. So and we're entering into the last like 48 hours of the campaign. So if you guys haven't and you've been thinking about doing it, now is definitely going to be the time to hop on that and get your signed copy sooner rather than later. I keep bumping into this thing. Because in addition to that, you guys aren't going to be able to purchase it until December once that closes. And it's also, you're not going to get to be a part of the experience as much. Because like I'm going to be moving away from doing a lot of the read-throughs and updates after chapter 5. And then it's primarily focusing on revisions and getting feedback from my beta readers, which you become when you pre-order your copy, all sorts of good stuff. So just want to throw that out there. If you know anybody who's interested in these kinds of books, fantasy, and just really kind of tackling hard subjects, hard questions, please feel free to send them the pre-order link, which is down below in the show notes. Okay, that done. We're going to dive into the chapter 2 reading. Now, the caveat to the chapter 2 reading is that some of these names are actually they've been changed. You guys can't see the document, but just to kind of let you know, if I say Tuwaffle, it's not because I'm thinking about waffles or falafels. It is because that was the name of Trinia's dad before I changed it. I actually changed it to Cadron. It means like battle chief in like Irish or it's like Irish, Scottish, Welsh, one of those. That's what Cadron means. And I liked it better than Tuwaffle because I told my wife that and she said it sounded like waffle. And then after that, I couldn't not hear that. And so I was like, that's not going to work. So we got to change that. So that's what we did. So if you hear me say that name, it's because I have not changed it yet. Everybody who is getting to beta read, I have given the same warning to, because they're going to be reading through some of those things. And it's like, yeah, that's not his name anymore. Okay. Anyway, so I'm going to pull this up here again. It's asking me, Word, why you do this? It's not going to be pulled up on the screen. I know last week I talked about potentially putting into some sort of slideshow and running it through like that. I simply just don't have the time to go through, because that requires a lot more editing on my part than I'm able to do right now. So you guys don't get to see it. I'm sorry. If you guys really want to see it like super, super badly, go pre-order. It'll be okay. Okay, now that word has decided to work, take a quick drink here. And remember, if you have questions, please feel free to post them in the comments. Chat, whatever that thing over there is called. I've been going since 6 o'clock this morning. If this were coffee, I think it probably would be better. But right now, it's just a 74-ounce thing of water that I've been nursing for like 3 days. I'm just kidding. It hasn't been 3 days. I just like to give my wife a bad time about it. I know it's an amazing water bottle. It's so good. All right, here we go. Chapter 2. Chieftain Kadrin stood over his daughter's body, staring down at it in disgust. Of all the people the gods could have bestowed the gift to, it had been her. Such a waste. If it had been him, he could not dwell on the past. He had to look to the future, one without his daughter's help, willing or no. He ran a finger down her bare arm, staring at her youthful face, now clean of dirt and blood. So much beauty for one so young. My lord. Kadrin had entirely forgotten about the priest standing behind him. The so-called god, voice of the gods. He wasn't sure if such a title was warranted, but he couldn't argue with the gods. Not yet, anyway. My lord, we must prepare the offering. Too much time has passed. And if we are to beseech the Almighty Ones their forgiveness, it must be soon. Kadrin turned, pale eyes drilling into the priest. We don't want that now, do we? No, my lord, replied the elder priest, bowing. Send for me when you hear from them. Making for the stairs, Kadrin was stopped by the sharp intake of breath from the priest. Heard from them already, have we? He asked, not bothering to hide his sarcasm. Did the chieftain's daughter always have a tattoo? Kadrin's jaw clenched and he turned slowly. What? The voice looked at him with barely hidden amusement. Did she have a tattoo? Of course not, Kadrin growled. She was not of age when... Then it hit him. He stalked down the stairs and shoved the voice out of his way, looking to where the priest indicated, and he felt the rage boil up within him. On the back of her neck, just behind the ear, was the mark 4. The 4th. They'd been tricked. The rage boiled over, and Kadrin yelled and slammed his fists down on the body until bones cracked. Breathing heavily, he turned and looked at the voice, grounding out every word between clenched teeth. Bring me the gods that were sent after my daughter. Now! Seeing the state of his lord, the priest bowed low and hobbled off to find the men. Kadrin snarled and hit the body once more before storming out towards his private study. That selfish little traitor. Walking through the halls like a firestorm, all in his path moved aside or tried to hide from view as much as possible, knowing full well what would happen to any who dared get in his way. Only one looked remotely curious before running into some dark corner to avoid his wrath. Perhaps he would send for her later. Reaching his destination, he threw open the doors of his study and walked over to the wine sitting near the fireplace. Pouring a glass, he downed it before refilling it once more. The little witch had deceived them, played one of her tricks. Curse her! He threw the glass against the wall before sinking into his bare-skinned chair, glaring at the blood-red stain on the carpet. The little wench was out there, somewhere, probably laughing at his stupidity. A knock on the door. There was only one person crazy enough to come when he was in a foul mood, and Kadrin suspected she'd found out from that wretched priest. Sometimes he wondered who that little disfigured cur served. Come, he called, his impatience at being disturbed clear. The door opened, and a tall woman with long reddish-brown hair entered in, her flowing purple dress hanging slightly off her shoulders. Her eyes, one red, the other violet, gazed at him in the customary uninterested look. "My lord," she said, her voice airy. "Ulscia," Kadrin replied shortly. "I heard news of your daughter." "The voice has loose lips that should remain shut." Kadrin spat. Ulscia gave a small smile, seating herself opposite him. "Perhaps, but it allows me to serve you." He grunted. "Indeed." "How may I serve you?" Ulscia asked, grabbing the wine and filling her glass. Kadrin stood and paced in front of the fireplace, never letting her out of his sight entirely. He didn't trust the Banshee that much. He glanced at her barely concealed bosom and wondered how it was she wanted to serve him. Placing a hand on the mantel, he said, "My daughter is out there, God knows where, and she cannot fall into the hands of any other kingdoms." "Understandable," Ulscia replied lightly, sipping the wine. "Her power would no doubt cause many hardships for you." Kadrin shook his head. "It already has. But I do not need Othfael or Aedwald getting their power-hungry hands on her." Ulscia chuckled. Kadrin shot her a dark look. "I do not find any of this funny." "Perhaps not to you," Ulscia said, smiling wide, revealing her pointed teeth. "Shall I try to cheer you up?" He waved a hand, dismissing her. "No! I have a servant in mind for such activities. Leave at once and to seek her out and bring her back to me." "As you wish," Ulscia replied, finishing off her glass and setting it down. "Perhaps when I return, then." She glanced at him, a hungry look in her eyes. "Perhaps," Kadrin said, watching her go. One did not turn their back on a Banshee, especially one as powerful as Ulscia. When the door clicked shut, Kadrin returned to his chair, running his hands along his stubbled jawline. When Ulscia returned with his daughter, he would make sure Trinia never ran away again, and she would fulfill her role in his plan. If she didn't, well, then she would die. Scene break. All right. So that is the first section of this chapter. Now, chapter 2 is slightly shorter. So, it's not going to go on forever. But yeah, if you guys have questions, comments, feedback, anything of interest to you, please make sure to note or talk about it in the comments. Chat. It's chat. I can words today. I promise I can words today. But I already did the other read through in the group, and so my voice is starting to go. And I still have like 3 calls after this. But I'm super excited to actually share with you guys kind of some of what's going to be happening with the edits that I just got back, some of the initial feedback. So we'll go over that once I've done the full introduction to Ulscia. So let us get ready because I don't see any comments or questions in the chat. So we will continue on with the second half of chapter 2. Ulscia glided down the halls, eyeing every suitable man she passed, which were few and far between. The Aragid rarely met her standards, with their long silver hair and thin builds. Still, she'd shared a bed with many over the centuries when one had been found worthy of her. She smiled at our particularly handsome young man as she passed, knowing full well he would find her later when she was ready for him. To the right one, she was a temptation too powerful to overcome for long. The halls moved ever downward, and before long, Ulscia came at last to the sanctuary of the voice, finding him stooped over the body of his latest victim, laying on a long stone table. He was a disgusting thing, with his disfigured face stooped back in spider-thin hair. I see you've found something else to play with, Ulscia said dryly. The voice turned his wrinkled face towards her, glaring at her with his one good eye. Well, since I no longer have the chieftain's daughter, I have to find other ways to amuse myself. Ulscia raised a brow. Indeed. No wonder she ran. The voice coughed and waved his hand. I was trying to get the gods to bestow her gift sooner, he said. How was I supposed to know that she would use her power to escape? Ulscia walked over to a chair and sat, taking in the room. Golden images of the gods adorned stone pedestals, burnt offerings laying charred underneath them. Across from her, a table sat with fruits and savory meats. The cold stone walls seemed to sap the warmth from the room, and she suspected that if she could feel such things, she would have found herself quite uncomfortable. She turned her attention back to the priest, who'd lost interest in the body on the table and was busy picking at the meats from the plate across from her, his hands still bloody. Did I ever insinuate that you are at fault? She asked evenly. He plopped a chunk of meat in his mouth, licking his fingers. No, you're far too clever for that, he said around the food in his mouth. Ulscia crossed her legs, her robe slipping, exposing her milky white skin up to her thigh. Yes, I am. Did he suspect anything? The voice asked, turning to the point at hand. Ulscia looked at her nails. Of course, he's not stupid. The voice choked as he tried to swallow. He does? He doesn't trust you, which is wise on his part, she said. But he doesn't have proof. He wiped his mouth with his sleeve, leaving a greasy stain. He said this? Ulscia rolled her eyes. Don't be a fool. Of course he didn't say it. He doesn't trust me either. Well, you are a... The voice stopped short of finishing that sentence. She gave him a dark look. A what? The voice put some distance between himself and where she sat before answering, as if that would save him if she really wanted to kill him. A Banshee. Ulscia lifted her chin. I'd tread carefully, for not even your precious gods will protect you from me. Is that understood? He nodded and bowed, keeping a wary eye on her. Forgive me. Standing, Ulscia walked over to him slowly, towering above him. Only the gods forgive. I do not. The voice bowed lower, a slight tremble shaking his shoulders. Of course. Ulscia looked down at the little man with big ambitions and wondered if he was as useful as he once was. He was old, though not as old as she. Perhaps she should find someone younger to help her. No, that would take too long. Besides, this one was already clay in her hands. Even if he did think his ideas were his own. I shall return before winter, she said, turning on her heel. Make sure everything is ready for my return. As she ascended the steps, she knew she was one step closer to seeing her vision fulfilled. And what a time to be alive. End chapter. All right, guys. So that was the end of chapter 2. Super just reading through that, obviously, like I see a lot of areas that need to be fixed. That's kind of the nature of the game. But yeah, it is one of the shorter chapters currently. So I'll go into kind of what it's going to look like in the third draft iteration. But first, I want to introduce you to the Queen of the Banshee. Now, the term Banshee, I'll get into. It's not actually French. I believe I mentioned that in the previous one. It is actually like Irish or Scottish Gaelic. So, without any further ado, meet Ulscia. Ta-da! Ulscia. Crowd, Ulscia. So, what is a Banshee? It is the Scottish-Irish version of a vampire. So it is kind of like vampire meets succubus, and all around just bad. This stupid pillow keeps moving. So yeah, the Banshee are basically like the Irish Scottish vampire, and they are absolutely terrifying. Like they make the vampires in Twilight look like the little sparklers on the 4th of July. Real pretty, but no bite. No pun intended. But they are the kind of the personification of the sensual, of lust. That is kind of what they are. They lure men out of their houses, or if they're traveling along the roadsides at night, they lure them into the woods and then do things before proceeding to kill them in horrible ways. Now, when I started writing this, I wanted to find something that was very similar, and I didn't actually know about the Banshee until I started actually looking it up. And when I saw just how completely badass these things are, I was like, yes, they need to be in the book. Ulscia is the queen of the banshees in the book. So I kind of took the Scottish vampire succubus thing and just kind of made it into the version of a banshee that I wanted to have. And they play a very particular role, especially in Ulscia's case. So Ulscia is the representation of lust in its desire for control. It represents the sexual deviancy of pornography. Those types of things are kind of personified in her. you see from the interactions, and I believe I touched on this just briefly with Udar's character reveal last week, that they have a past history, and it's because she was essentially his temptress. Very similar to um, when she points out to the young Aragid, she's a temptation too powerful to be denied for long, and that's kind of what she's meant to represent. Is the addictive quality of pornography and sexual addiction, and that we don't see anything in this book about that. It's just that's what she is an undeniable force to men in particular. And she uses that to her advantage to manipulate, control, and deceive. And that is essentially what pornography does. It warps, it twists, and it desires to control you or others through you. Now, I'm not going to get into the science of it in the stream, but if you go to like fightthenewdrug.org, they have a ton of information on what that looks like, the science behind it, and you can find out some additional information about it. But this is what that science is what I based kind of Ulscia's personality on, and why she is like that. Now, her motivations are they are not well defined in the second draft, admittedly. In the third draft, there's a lot that I plan on doing with her motivations to kind of make it a little bit more clear. But essentially, what she's desiring to do is to take Trinia's power of duplication, because Trinia is able to, if you haven't seen it, go back, watch the other character reveal, the very first character reveal I did of Trinia, the main protagonist. She can perfectly duplicate herself in mind and body. And so that is something that Ulscia is seeking to get from Trinia. Now, you can't siphon off the magic, so she can't do that. But she wants to try and figure out a way to get Trinia on her side, because what Ulscia is desiring to do is to create an army of banshees. She wants to create that to turn the world in and make the world into her own image. Again, it's that concept of it's seeking to kill and destroy and to manipulate, to pervert, all these kinds of things. So that's kind of what her own lust for power looks like. Is she's trying to take that and put that into the world as the characters know it, and as you guys will come to know it in the future. And so that is in large part kind of what her motivation is. There's some more nuances in it that will kind of come to light more as I get into the third draft and start applying some of the feedback that I received from the editors. So I'm going to pause right there, grab a drink of water. But do you guys have any questions? I mean, like, we're talking questions about the book, the publishing process, writing, the revisions process, what else? The character, all of it. So post in the chat and let me know. I'm going to grab a drink of water. All right, nothing so far, so I will go ahead and just continue on. Know that you can do it at any time, and I've got the thing pulled up, so I'll be able to see it. So the next stage that and how it's going to look over the next coming weeks is I actually start revisions on Monday. And so revisions for what it's going to look like for me is I've gotten my acquisition editor feedback, and in large part, I'm on track. Yay. Very excited about that. Two, there are different things and different levels of like, is the plot effective in this chapter? Or is the style good in this chapter? And they kind of rate it like effective, not effective, um, not added, needs to be added, those kinds of things. And by and large, it's actually looking really good. Um, a lot of the not effectives that I got really revolved around not having enough world building, which is ironic because I love world building, but I was also really paranoid about the word count. So I just erred on the side of less. Now we're going to go back and kind of add a little bit more into it and kind of really fill it out a little bit more, really kind of hone in on the details of the world. So that way you guys have a clear picture of kind of what it's going to look like, which I'm super stoked about. Very, very excited. And then I'm going to have about a month in order to get through all 80,000 words, apply the feedback that's been given to me as best as I can, and then go through it again with my marketing and revisions editor. And so that will be kind of the next following month. So between September and October, then I submit to the copy editors, and then we kind of go on and take kind of the next steps, picking a cover, helping the beta reader community is going to help me pick a cover. They're going to get to see several, like 5 or 6 different versions, which I'm super excited about. I was thinking I would be lucky if I just got one version, and I'm going to have a professional graphic designer do 6 mock-ups. So very, very excited about that. And everyone gets to give feedback and vote on it, which absolutely thrilled about. So yeah, that's kind of what everything is looking like overall for the next couple of months. Now, once I've reached chapter 5, I am not going to be doing any more live streams. And actually, I'll probably do up to chapter 5 for only the beta groups, and I'll only do one more chapter on the live stream like this. I'll still be bringing you updates on like how revisions are going and stuff, but they will be a little bit more periodic because I'm really going to kind of take a step back in order to fully facilitate working in the group, talking with my beta reader group, and doing all that kind of stuff, and filling you guys in maybe once or twice a month on kind of how everything is progressing. So very, very just excited, just in general. Like, I'm $1,500 away from fully funding this campaign and having this book published in December. Like, that's crazy to me to think that I had barely started the second draft in January, and now it's coming to being published, almost 12 months later. So it's just mind-boggling to me. And so everyone who supported, I just appreciate you guys so much. That is everything for the stream today. One last thing before we head out is, if you know anybody, we're in the last 48 hours of the campaign. If you know anybody who would be interested in supporting a book, and hey, Heather, getting this book supported and joining the journey and getting a more inside scoop on the publishing side of things, talking about revisions, talking about editing. I'm going to be doing some more concentrated videos in the Facebook group, in particular, because they supported me, and so I'm gonna give them that. So yeah, it's so much good's happening. Like I made a post for those of you who, don't follow on any of my other social media, which is totally fine, by the way. Um, I had made a post about like this campaign's been hard. Like, let me just tell you guys, campaigning, crowdsourcing for publishing is a lot more difficult than I gave it credit for. It's been a huge emotional roller coaster, anxiety through the roof. So I tend to, for myself, focus on the negative, but then I look at like, guys, like 72 people have backed my book. Like, I literally have had 72 people pre-order my book already. Like, that's more than I ever thought. You know, like every author dreams of something like that. So, like, it's exciting. It's overwhelming. Like, there's an overwhelming amount of crap that I got to get done. I still got to build out the rest of the map, the full color map that is available for as part of the pre-order packages. There'll be a non-color map in the book, but like it's coming along. Like in just a couple short months, I'm gonna have the book in my hands. And I'm gonna stream and do, a book open reveal and stuff. Um, Again, excited about that. I am genuinely excited about all of this stuff. I have to try and restrain myself a little bit, otherwise I'm gonna keep smacking the microphone. Um, but yeah, so much cool stuff. So much support and love from all the people. I already have 5 people who are just like, give me all of the words. I want to read everything now and give feedback. I'm like, great. This is fantastic. Like, I need that kind of feedback. Like, I need to know from you guys, my readers, what you want to see more of in the book. So it's been awesome. It's so good. Stressful, like very, very stressful. And I empathize so much more now with those of you who have gone through the publishing process, who have gone the route. It doesn't matter whether it's traditional or whether it's, just trying to straight self publish. Um, or if you're also going like kind of a hybrid route of, crowdsourcing and having that support and stuff. Either way, it's hard. It is way harder than I expected it to be. Um, just mind-boggling, but it is absolutely worth it. Like, I can't begin to tell you just like how worth it is. Um, but yeah, so I don't want to discourage you guys and be like super doom and gloom about like, oh my God, it's so hard. Like, don't ever go publish your book. That's not it at all. I think I went into it unprepared for the mental challenge of it. Like physically, like I know I can rewrite the book. Like that I'm not worried about. Even the time frame. Like, like okay, I got from August 17th to what was it? September 19th? Or no, September 13th in order to get my first round of revisions done. 80,000 words done in a month, revised. That's a lot. Like, obviously, not all the words are going to change, but there's going to be a fair amount of it that I have to work on. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm like, easy, piece of cake, because I have a process. I have a writing process. I have an editing process. I got a process for my processes. So I know how to work that. But the mental fortitude to ask people for money on something that they've never seen, they don't know if they're going to like, and it's based around an experience that I was not prepared for mentally. And I think that goes for anybody who is wanting to get published. Like, you need to mentally prepare yourself for how hard it's going to be. And even then, you're not going to be able to do it all the way, because especially if you've never done it before. But if you are looking to get into publishing and and do that kind of stuff, just make sure that you are just going into it with like, you know what, this is going to be really hard, but I can do it. Because the truth is that you can do it. Doesn't matter whether you're self-publishing, traditional publishing, or hybrid publishing. You can do it. I watched authors who are part of this publishing phase, I guess would be the correct term for it. Their book was fully funded. They hit 10 grand in like 5 days. I mean, just mind-bogglingly fast, and just boom, funded just like that. And then it was just cake from there. Um, and don't get me wrong, like I am so excited for those people, like absolutely thrilled for those people with getting the book published. And then there's me, and then I get and don't get into this, but yeah, 10 grand in 5 days, no less. Like absolutely crazy. Now, granted, it was a nonfiction book. And whereas I'm doing fiction, it is a little bit harder, admittedly so. A little bit harder for fiction. I'm in a subgenre with Christian fantasy because apparently most Christians see it as like the B-rated movies that just make you cringe because it's been done so poorly before. And I'm like, y'all, you've not read my book. You have like, there's no B-rated. Like this is like PG-13 edging on R. Like, and that's probably just mostly for the violence, if I'm being honest. But yeah, that kind of thing, you know, it's just it's a harder thing. I'm catering to a niche market, and so it's harder to raise funds. That's just how it goes. You look at any sort of fundraiser, it's the same thing. So, you know, you find your niche market, you understand your buyers, where they're at, where they're located. I really should do a stream at one point or at some point about like author SEO and like finding your market and stuff. I think that'd be a really helpful stream to do for you guys. I'd like to do that too, especially because I got a lot of experience. Well, I'm gaining a lot of experience in that now. So yeah, that's it. It's one of those things where you determine for yourself to do it, to push, to keep striving, to keep going, even when you want to stop and just curl up in the fetal position in your vocal booth and cry. Not that I'm talking about myself at all, you know, but if you guys have local, vocal booths down in your basement too, which I'm sure most of you probably do, you can probably relate with that. So, um, that is everything for. I said this was everything like a few minutes ago, but that's everything for the stream today, guys. I will bring you another one next week, and I'll be. Ooh, who should I introduce you guys to? Here's what I want you guys to do. For those of you who are watching, comment down below in the comments who you would like to see next, and I will actually put a comment down there with the list of names. And then I just want you guys to comment on that one or anywhere on there and tell me which one. I'll give an indicator of like who's who in it so that way you have an idea. But tell me who you would like to see next week, because it is going to be the last stream that I do a read through for, simply because I'm not going to be having a lot of time over the next couple of months as I'm working on my revisions basically 24/7. So thank you guys so much for your support. I appreciate you all so very much. And I will see you guys next week. Take care, everybody.